Jerry Jones says help is on the way for the Cowboys defense. Kind of don't believe him. We'll tell you why next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Welcome back. I am your host, Markquese Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. On today's show, we are answering your mailbag questions, including what can the Cowboys do to fix their linebacker situation? Should Nathan Thomas be one of their starting tackles? But let's get to this question. We got it from about 5 different people that wanted to know, is there actually going to be help on the way for the Cowboys defense? Jerry Jones mentioned it on the radio during a Tuesday interview. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are just about the same as every Jerry Jones comment. It depends on what you mean, right? Because I do think in Jerry's mind and in the salesman's mind, help is on the way because you got a couple guys. To be fair, you got a bunch of guys who are coming off of injury lists, right? They're coming off of PUP, well, I guess specifically IR, right? And are eligible to come back into practice, who are getting their practice windows opened up. So in that sense, yes, you do have some help on the way. I think Cowboys fans were looking for more of a, outside help on the way, a trade situation, a signing, though I think signings, whoever's available on the street right now, no one's really moving the needle too much. So I think most folks were kind of hearing this and thinking trade, and that may be coming. That may be something that is in the cards at some point, but I don't think that that's necessarily what Jerry was referring to when he made these comments. I think Jerry was referring to Ravel and Overshown and Butler and Carson and all the guys that are coming off of these lists that are starting to get healthy again.
So I have a tweet that I sent out like 5 years ago between you and I talking where it said, I cannot wait for week 5 when Jerry Jones says reinforcements are on the way. Because this is what he does every year. After the first 4 games of the season, there's always a player or two that's hurt that's expected to come back in and solve all their problems, whether that's on offense or defense. And it happened a little bit later this year. This is about the latest it's happened. So I'm not surprised. Do I think they're going to go out and make a big trade? No, I won't be shocked, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I won't be surprised if they use some decent pick, like a future third or something, to go out and get some help. But I don't think it's going to be like, hey, we're trading for Trey Hendrickson or Max Crosby or anything like that.
Well, first of all, let's talk about where we need to get to, right? Right now, we're at the bottom of the NFL on defense, right? And as you and I have discussed pretty regularly, you just need to get to like 17, 18.
17, 18, they might be the 1 seed if they're that good.
Look, we're trying to win the Super Bowl here, buddy. So well,
let me ask you this. I'm not joking.
No.
If I told you right now that the Cowboys finished at X spot on defense, where would that need to be for you to say, hey, this is absolutely a playoff team?
To be a playoff team?
To be a playoff team.
I'd say like 20.
That's my number is 20. If you
20 to 24 somewhere,
because I think the Cowboys are going to finish inside the top 3 on offense. I think they're going to be inside the top 3 on special teams. If they're 20th on defense, that's probably good enough to get you to, now I got to think about it, 10-6-1, right? And that probably gets you in.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's what I'm trying to say is it seems like a heavy climb, but first of all, it's easy to move through a lot easier to move through those bottom ranks than it is to once you start to get to 15 and try to move into the top 10. It's 1 or 2 quality ads could easily get you halfway there. And I think that's kind of what the Cowboys are banking on, right? Is that out of these collection of guys that are coming off of the list, right, you're going to get at least one starter, right? I mean, Overshown, if he's coming back with the state of the linebacker, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think that that's at least one. And then these other guys, if you can get just one or two quality players out of that, that's going to raise the floor a little bit. And specifically because you're talking about coverage players. I mean, maybe they're worse, but there's a chance that you've got some guys that out there that can at least help raise the floor. And then if you could go out and it doesn't need to be, a second round pick for Hendrickson or something like that. Like if you could just go out and add another quality player, it doesn't even have to be a starter, but like a rotational pass rusher, another a quarterback 3 that you feel more comfortable than these other guys that you got back. I think that you can get yourself to where you need to be and then hope that the growth in the youth of this team will get you the rest of the way of where you need to be. So I think if we're looking for a silver bullet that we're going to trade one of these first round picks for, that's going to get us in the top half of the league in defense, that's just not happening. Right. But there's enough like small moves that you can cobble together. And it's the money ball thing, right? Where in the aggregate, you can improve the floor of your defense to the point where you're at least respectable and it's helping you win ball games.
There is another player that we didn't mention who is eligible to come back at maybe not this week. It might be next week. And that's Perrion Winfrey, who we actually saw on the sides of the sounds of the sideline from Dallas Cowboys, he was all fired up. He's actually a guy, now that you have Kenny Clark, you have Osa Digizua, Solomon Thomas is playing well as that rotational guy. Maybe you don't need Mozzie Smith or Jay Toia if you have Perrion Winfrey. And that's how you just add a little bit more juice to your pass rush. Is Perrion Winfrey going to make the difference in you being the 32nd ranked defense and the 20th ranked defense? No. But I think he's just another body that they can play inside that makes me feel better about what they can maybe do, especially against the run.
Yeah, I mean, look, it gives you more options. Like if you wanted to play a 3 defensive tackle line and then maybe do some interesting blitz stuff, some mid stuff, fronts.
Or make sure that Kenny Clark's not killing himself in the first 2 weeks of the season with snaps. You don't want these guys to be worn down with how many games they have coming up in November and December.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, maybe you just rely on your third defensive tackle a little bit more than you would, or fourth defensive tackle, however you want to, power rank that, more than you would if it was Mozzie Smith. You feel better when it's Perrion Winfrey, and that adds, and that's the thing. It's going to be like adding, improvements here and there all around to try to raise the overall floor. And then maybe 1 or 2 bigger ads, like I said, an Overshown coming off of an injury list. Maybe Josh Butler helps raise the floor in the cornerback situation.
And honestly, for me, I think the biggest improvements they could make are just like redistributing some of the snaps. Like I was looking at Sam Williams stuff today. Over the last 3 games, Sam Williams, I think, is second. He's got the second worst pass rush win rate in the NFL, and he's the PFF's worst graded run defender. If you're taking his 30 snaps a game and giving them to Jadeveon Clowney, again, that's not going to make a huge difference, but it might make a big enough difference where you get 1 more additional stop a game, and that's all you need to win some of these.
Yeah, and let's also keep in mind that all of this is underneath the umbrella as well of all these guys learning a new defense, right? Like that's the other part about this, is that this is a brand new defense that they're all kind of still, congealing to. So that sometimes that can take a half a season, to kind of fully understand a defense, even a simplified one like this one, all the way. So I think there are a whole bunch of smaller areas where they can make tweaks and make small improvements that could accumulate into hopefully a raising of the floor. But I think that, if you're looking for, one big swing, a reverse Micah Parsons, if you will, I just don't think that that's happening.
Now, maybe there is a name that becomes available as we get a little further on in the season, and maybe it's like somebody from the Jets. Like I've been looking at like Will McDonald, who's seeing his snap counts go down. Like I think that's somebody who could be interesting. But I would say as of right now, I don't anticipate a big move happening. But who knows? Jerry Jones is the gambler. At least that's what he likes to call himself. Let's talk. Yeah, he tells us all the time. Let's talk about the Cowboys offensive line, because we could have yet another lineup change here in week 5. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, and with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else. From footwork to breath work, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every single model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make your everyday drives feel like anything but, with smooth handling and fantastic controls. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like, I know for me, living up here in Erie, PA, the winters are awful. You have to have a vehicle with all-wheel drive, and that is where Mazda comes in through the clutch. And like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Landon, let's get to another question. This one from Goran. He wants to know, should the Cowboys consider making Nate Thomas one of their starting tackles? He didn't say what tackle spot, but should he be one of their starters going forward?
Well, he did that on purpose because Goran's one of our smarter listeners, and he wanted to leave it open-ended because I think it is a question, right? And I do think that Nate Thomas has shown us enough through the training camp process, through the preseason, now into the regular season, that he deserves an opportunity to continue to keep playing, right? Like, I think that, I tweeted it out that there's a good chance that he could be one of your top two offensive tackles. And I, intentionally kind of left that blank a little bit, because I do think that Guyton has been very up and down, but I do think he's also improving. And I think as he's getting healthier, he's battling a lot. It hasn't always been pretty. And I don't think that his highs have been as high as Terrence Steele's highs have been in specifically the run game. I think Terrence Steele has really continued to struggle as a pass protector at times. And I think that, if you're looking to make improvements at the right tackle, that is specifically the area that I think you're looking for Nate Thomas to be better at. But I think and I think on top of that, you need to have Guyton continue to take these snaps. He missed all of training camp with the injury, not all of it, but the back half of training camp with injury. He needs these snaps to improve. And I also think that it's kind of a situation where Steele and Guyton, to me, are playing kind of at similar levels. Maybe Steele's slightly better in the run game, but I think you have to go with the youth in this situation. Get a starting five that you could potentially work into the future with. See what you've got in this guy, because I think all of us kind of had him penciled in as the potential starter at right tackle next year. Maybe the future is now with Nate Thomas.
I have very mixed feelings on this, because I don't think long-term he's going to take the left tackle job from Tyler Guyton. And I don't think they really want him to. Like, I think Guyton has shown some improvements. I know if you look at the PFF grades, they've been up and down, but where you've really seen it is in the run game. And I think that's what makes me feel really excited about Guyton long-term. Is when the Cowboys drafted him, they drafted him as like this athletic guy that can move, and you're hoping he can just lose slowly at left tackle. But I actually think he's been like a plus blocker in the run game, and I think you want to continue to develop that. Now, Guyton could miss this week with a concussion. He's optimistic that he can play. Brian Schottenheimer even said that they feel like there's a good chance he might be able to make it through the protocol. We'll see. I actually hope that they give him enough time. They don't rush this. There's no sense, right? But with Terrence Steele, the only thing that makes me nervous here, Landon, is if you take Terrence Steele out of the lineup, I do think you're losing one of your best run blockers. And who's the veteran on the offensive line? With so many injuries right now to Cooper Beebe and Tyler Booker, you've got Tyler Smith, who I think is 24 years old. You've got Tyler Guyton, who's 23. It is nice to have one guy on the offensive line who's been through some of these big games. That would be my concern.
It's Tyler Smith. Like, the future is now with this group. I think it's time to think about going young. And I understand what you're saying. That the veteran presence is important, but Tyler Smith he's an all-pro. Like he's one of the best, if not the best guard in football. And I think that he's seen enough at this point through, 3 seasons, 2.5 seasons. I've lost track now at this point.
We're in year 4 now.
Yeah. So 3.5 seasons. So I think, to the point where it's a short career for these guys, and 3 seasons is can be make you into a veteran for sure. To me, I think that having that veteran presence is important, but it's not like Terrence Steele is like necessarily some wily vet, and he won't. It's not like he won't be around. And I also think that a lot of people disagree with this, but I am not someone who is opposed to rotating series of offensive tackles. I've really come around on this because I think that Mike McCarthy, if anything, the one positive thing that we've seen from Mike McCarthy is getting opportunities for some of these guys. And even if it's a limited opportunity, if it's the right opportunity, is important because all these guys are going to play. So, if you have to rotate these guys, if anything, it's good practice for that guard to get ready for if an injury happens and you have to play next to another guy. So I'm not opposed to maybe not full time. I'm certainly not that, but if we wanted to kind of dip a toe into this experiment as opposed to fully throwing Nate Thomas out there as the starter next week, I'm okay with that as well.
I'm okay with that as well. I do agree. Mike McCarthy did a good job of getting these guys ready. And it's why guys like Brock Hoffman and TJ Bass, who, guys aren't penciled in as, week 1 starters, they can come in these games and not get you embarrassed. And actually, both those guys can provide value in run games because, we saw like Brock Hoffman was getting rotated in, was it 2 years ago in certain situations when maybe we thought there were better players that should have been getting his snaps, but it's what McCarthy does. One thing on Thomas that makes this tough is you kind of want him to pick a spot, like so he can work on his footwork and his hand technique. And the issue is like this week, he might be playing left tackle because of a Guyton injury, but you really want him to be taking right tackle snaps because that's the future of where he's going to be lining up. It makes this also challenging.
Yeah, it's not ideal necessarily, but it's also not going to kill him. I mean, obviously he had no problem coming in and after preparing to right tackle all week, going in and playing left tackle and mugging up Micah Parsons on at least a couple snaps. So yeah, I do think that it is not necessarily ideal, but at the same time, he certainly didn't seem to have any problem with it. And frankly, he spent all of training camp working at left tackle. So I think for him at this point, it's probably old hat going back and forth.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't know if there's going to be a huge drop off between Tyler Guyton and Nathan Thomas. Now, again, if he's got to start a game, I think you're always worried about the conditioning because he hasn't played a full game. That's the thing I worry about.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say too is, and I've harped on this a lot, is offensive line play is not 6 snaps. It's 70 snaps or whatever. It's and you examine it over the entire course of the game, and I think that's what we've seen of Nathan Thomas's short spurts. How does he handle playing 70 consecutive games? Does he play strong into the fourth quarter? These are all things that we would have to see. And
it tests your mental toughness as well, because when you're on snap 60, are you really plugged into the snap count? Are you going to jump? There's just a lot of things that young offensive linemen who haven't played that many snaps in a row have to figure out.
They got more tape on you too, as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Cowboys linebackers, because that's probably I think it's the worst position on the Cowboys right now. Are there any potential solutions out there? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. That's right. All you have to do is pick a bet, put $5 down, and if it hits, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel because it allows me to bet however I want to bet. Like, I love parlay. So Sunday morning, put a couple teams in a money line parlay that you think are going to win. It's the easiest way to bet. Or if you like futures bet, like today, I've been monitoring all of the division odds. Like, I've been checking in on that AFC North because I think Baltimore is way overvalued right now. I think Pittsburgh is going to win that division going away. So many different fun ways. It makes watching football on Sundays way more enjoyable, especially when you have a little action on the side. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That is why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever needing to touch a spreadsheet. I've linked all of my accounts to Monarch and immediately found a few subscriptions that I didn't even know that I had. I was just throwing money out the window. It saved me like $70, $80 a month on subscriptions that I wasn't currently using. So don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That is 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler, the Madman Rowland, gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you to the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. All right, Landon, last question here. It's about the linebackers. A lot of different suggestions about how to fix this problem, but this one comes from Jake. Could the Cowboys potentially use someone like Markquese Bell to figure out their linebacker situation? And then another one from Evan. We're combining this in here as well. What should we expect from DeMarvion Overshown once he's cleared to play?
All right, let's go with the first one first, right? And because I think these kind of all sort of tie into each other as well. I think we have to realize there's a reason that Jack Sanborn is on this team. and that's because the defensive coordinator trusts Jack Sanborn, right? So, and I'm not suggesting that Jack Sanborn should be the one playing, but what I'm saying is that I think that there's going to be very limited opportunities for a outside candidate, like let's say, a free agent linebacker, or
like I saw Eric Kendricks worked out for the Ravens on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think that they've made their selection in veteran linebacker, right, and who they want, who they trust. Now, we could talk about someone like Markquese Bell, right, who obviously played linebacker previous for us. It's obviously a safety, had a big play on in this last Sunday, very big play. To me, I think it would make some sense to do some stuff with Markquese Bell, but I think if you're trying to be realistic, I think it's probably mostly in a nickel situation, right? Like where you feel comfortable with him operating in the defense, just because that's an area where he's had a lot of experience, and those defenses are very similar. I think if you're thinking about putting him on as your will linebacker on first and second down, I think he could do it for sure if he's proven that he can do it. And this may even be a better situation for him to be doing it than it was previously. But I think the hurdle you're going to need to get over is kind of finding a way to get this defensive coordinator and this defensive brain trust to trust him enough to do such a thing.
I would love to see it because I thought Markquese Bell was one of the best coverage linebackers we saw in 2023. Mm-hmm. I just don't think they view him that way at all. He's got 2 defensive snaps on the year. Like they obviously don't trust him. I think of the names that are available, the one guy that I could see Eberflus going to is Shamar James, who we actually saw play a little bit last week, just because he is the athlete. He's the guy that could fly around. I just don't think it's going to be Bell, unfortunately.
Yeah, and honestly, I think, with where James is right now, I think it's going to look a lot like what you see with Damone Clark, right? Where it's all athleticism, all speed, but maybe overrunning plays or being confused by misdirection or not knowing what he's saying, and then athleticism being neutralized by a slow processor.
What about Leofau?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think you have. I mean, I think that you have to continue to give Leofau opportunities. He's just shown you that he is a good player. Before he made some bad mistakes, and I think that it's unfortunate for those of us that want him to continue to get snaps because we think he's your best bet. But I think that you just you've been hard headed about Sam Williams. Why not be hard headed about Markquese Leofau here? I think you have a better chance at this point that Leofau will even out and be a starter level linebacker than you've gotten from Sam Williams so far.
All right. So what about Overshown? Overshown keeps kind of creeping up this timeline of when he can get on the field. And I wonder if it's because the linebackers are that bad and he feels like he needs to get out there. But when Overshown is cleared, what can we expect?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they'll have to be kind of gentle with him a little bit and rotate him in. And I think it's going to start out, with him probably playing some like we talked about with Bell, some nickel situations. And then, as the snaps kind of increase, you'll see more and more of him being rounded and playing kind of all downs. I would say that very quickly they'll try to move to a situation where he's the number one snap getter as linebacker because he's a talented player, but I do think that, they're going to have to ease him into this situation just because, I mean, his recovery curve is so severe.
I'm worried about him. I'm worried. Yeah. I'm not worried about him in the sense of he's going to be ready to go. I'm worried that the Cowboys are going to overwork him. And it's not fair to him, because they need him. They desperately need Overshown. I just don't want him to be exhausted and pushing too hard to get back on the field. But we'll see. All right. That is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Check out the channel on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcast. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Landon on Twitter @McCoolBCB. I'm at Markquese _Mosher, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.